Hey, this is Fred from North 40 Fly Shop. Today I am going to be tying a balanced squirrel. This is one of our best-selling flies in the fly shop. We've got this black version with the red head, and I'm going to do a variant today. We're calling this the Copper Rusty Crusty. It's got a copper bead and a rusty squirrel body, and then crusty nail dubbing to finish out the head. So we're going to roll with this baby. All right, so starting out, we've got our right angle jig hook, and this is a number 6 NU hook. These are, you can find these at North 40 Fly Shop, and I don't believe anywhere else. There's a few other hooks you can use. Daiichi makes a good right angle jig hook, and a couple other options, but this is my favorite. So we're going to start out with thread base. Thread's not super important on this one. I'm just going to go ahead and roll with some black here. And then in order to set up the balance on this fly, I've got my bead on a pin, and I've pre-cut this one. I typically use a sequin pin, which is a little shorter. Couldn't find those this morning, so I'm just using a standard straight pin and just cutting it to length. And I want about a bead's width of space between the right angle bend and where that bead aligns up on the shaft of the pin there. Lash this all the way down. Be a little careful as you get to the cut point so that you don't cut your thread off. And I'm going to take my thread all the way to the rear tie-in point. Next material is this rusty pine squirrel zonker. And I'm going to tie this in for the tail and then also wrap it forward for the body. So the first step is to measure off my tail distance, and I'm going to run that tail about the length of the entire shank. Just find a little clear point and cut her off. And then I'm going to lay that down with the hide facing me right in the little gap on the end of the hook where the pin ended, and down to the tie-in point, and just fill that in. Then we're going to grab our strip again, and if you need to clean up the little tag at the end there just a little bit, you can do so. And then I'm going to find a tie-in point about 1/4 inch up that hide there and just overlay it right over my bottom piece. Do about 3 wraps to secure that down. And you can give it a little tug, carry that thread all the way back up, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap that all the way up and down that pin shaft just to build that thread base up there. And then we're just going to palmer this on forward up to the right angle of that hook. And then we're going to tie it right off behind the bend. After my over wraps, I like to give a couple locking wraps and a little tug just to make sure it's secure. And then go ahead and trim off the hide. I'm just going to lick this back. You can see how that profile is now. That little overlap kind of fills in that gap where the bottom hide strip is. And then to finish this fly, all we need is our Senyo's Fusion dub, and this is the Rusty Crusty. I'm going to build a dubbing loop. Insert a couple inches of Rusty Crusty and finish it off. You don't want this head to be super bulky, but you can certainly add more if it's not enough. You can kind of find the way you like it. I've found that about 1.5 inches or so of dubbing usually hits me about right. So I'm going to put that in my loop and spin it up. And then before I wrap it, I'm just going to comb it out a bit. You can also comb it out once it's been applied on the fly here. Then I'm going to get a couple wraps behind that bend And then I'm going to go ahead and carry it forward toward the bead. And these wraps in here are going to force that bead right up onto the pin. Get it good and snug and then tie it off when you feel the pressure build up there. And just a couple whip finishes, it'll slide right down to the shaft so you don't need to worry about gluing it. And then we can just do a little primping, fluff up that head a little bit. It just fills in our space, gives us a little bit more color. And there you have the balanced squirrel in the Rusty Crusty with the copper bead. Thanks for watching. If you need the materials to tie this balanced rusty crusty copper-headed leech, stop in at North 40 Fly Shop or check us out at north40flyshop.com.